organ systems. So instead of repeating the same talks over and over again, I just, same old song, so don't need to come. I decided to focus system by system. So today I kick off by starting on the skin and obesity. And in this way, I can fulfill my own personal mission. If you want to know, I have always been interested in preventive medicine. Way back in 89, 90, I organized conferences on preventive medicine. That's how enthusiastic I am. And throughout my career, I have been promoting stress management workshops, health workshops, to teach people how they can help themselves and prevent disease. So, as a result of my interest in preventive medicine, I get interested in anti-aging medicine. You all know that as anti-aging, but I call this regenerative medicine. In other words, I want to help everybody, including myself, to repair whatever weaknesses, harm, or whatever that can happen to your body, and to regenerate. Okay, so that's my mission. And so I have found in iTherapy a device that can fulfill the purpose of anti-aging or regenerative medicine, and that's where I come from. Okay, and when I explain the subject matter to you, you will understand my passion and focus. So this is a slide. I'd like to remind you, if you have used hot compress, cold compress, you know that temperature can heal, and heat can heal. All disease can be treated if you can hit the bones. To some degree that's true, because the bone inside there, the bone marrow, where there are a lot of stem cells that actually allows you to repair and to regenerate. Then of course, Einstein had this famous thing saying that we can be healed by frequencies. You may like to know that on YouTube, if you just search for videos that talk about frequency healing, you find lots of videos. All sorts of frequencies have been used. In a way, music therapy is about frequencies, right? But you have people who use middle C. If you know music, you know what's middle C, for healing, and other frequencies as well. So, in other words, various frequencies can have this property of healing. But with the iTherapy, you're talking about a specific frequency which we are using. And that's what we're going to focus on. So, again, I want to remind you that terahertz is related to many areas of interest: health, science, military, agriculture, and communication. How many of you are using 5G at the moment? You're using 5G?
No.
No. If you're using 5G, you'll be interested in 6G.
Yeah.
And you know 6G, they use what waves? Terahertz waves. And recently there was a newspaper article. I don't know how many of you catch that newspaper article. But if you remember, there was a time when they say that don't use your handphone too often, you can get brain cancer, right? There was a Scandinavian study that showed that incidence of brain cancer is slightly up for those who use mobile phone put to the ear for a very long time, right? So there was this interest. Would 6G have this effect on our body? So they're testing 6G, whether it will cause any brain tumors or not. And the analysis of the research shows that 6G is very safe. Wonderful, isn't it? Amazing. For the first time we have a band that is completely safe. Most people now, they don't put it to the ear, they put a headphone or earpiece or whatever, right? So that's how we protect ourselves. So it's also used in the military, in agriculture, in all this. I'm not an expert in all this thing, I'm an expert in health. Okay? So that's where I will focus on. And Yeah, on this, I can use this. So you find that this is the light spectrum, the violet to indigo or whatever. So this is the visual light spectrum. Okay, this is ultraviolet, which are very short waves. This is infrared, which are very long waves. Terahertz sits squarely between the infrared and the microwaves. Now, terahertz is actually, this is near infrared, this is far infrared. There's nothing unique about infrared, except we study this under electronics because of the wavelength, radio, and all frequencies there. We used to study this under light. Okay? This part is rarely studied because we do not know how to access it. Right? So, in other words, the properties of terahertz wave have similarities with infrared and similarities with microwave. It blends, it kind of goes through. See? Of course, you know infrared, if you have gone for saunas and everything, that's all infrared. If you go to campfire, that's also infrared. Microwave, I suppose you know what it is. You use it to heat your food. Right? So, now, terahertz waves, the properties that are of interest to me as a medical person, these are of interest to me. It's low energy, it doesn't damage biological tissues, atoms, and molecules, and that's why studies have found that 6G radiation is perfectly safe, no harm, you know, and it penetrates well through material with dielectric property. This line simply means that non-conductors, it will penetrate. So if I put a terahertz waves here and I put a detector on the other side of the room, no matter how thick the wall is, you can detect. It can travel through solids. See? It is absorbed by polar compounds. Water is a polar compound. Polar compounds are conductors of electricity. Anything that conducts electricity will block terahertz wave and absorb the terahertz wave. Now this is very important, as we shall see. The energy corresponds to very weak bonds in the molecules and atoms. You know that atoms are held together by very strong bonds, right? If you know about atomic and nuclear bombs, you will realize the force there is within the molecules. For example, phosphates are very small compound, isn't it? However, phosphate, when they undergo reaction, it turns from solid to a gas form, right? What is the volume of a solid? So little, right? What's the volume of a gas? Very huge, isn't it? That's why phosphates are used in bombs. When you initiate a reaction, there's a big explosion, and the force is enough to tear everything apart. So that's the force you find in atoms and molecules. But there is also another force that brings different atoms and molecules together, and especially biological molecules, which are very complex, and these are called hydrogen bonds and van der Waals forces. They are very weak forces. Okay? Good. Since this slide is not in this talk, I can mention that in alkaline water or terahertz water, basically what is broken are the van der Waals force, the bonds that hold molecules together, and that's why water there is a viscosity. That viscosity is due to this force. So because of this, our body is made up of many kinds of tissues which have different physical properties. It is absorbed by different tissues at different rates. Some will block it, some will not. If it passes through water, like the blood vessels, it will be blocked. If it passes through solids, calcium, it will go right through. So because of that, different tissue exhibit different resonance. Now you know that every matter has a resonance frequency, right? So your body, your cells also have a resonance frequency. And terahertz frequency is very interesting because of this. You know, if the cells vibrate at the same frequency, normal human cell also resonate at the same frequency, terahertz. If the frequency coincide, then the cell will be affected. With opaque tissues, terahertz shows scattering. Scattering is like a mirror. It will get reflected. It's a reflection. This reflection is called radial scattering. Okay? So, as far as medical application is concerned, there are basically two. You can use for diagnosis, it can be used for therapy, which is what our TerraCare is all about. As far as diagnosis is concerned, terahertz waves has a very interesting property. And that is because it is absorbed by different tissues differently. You can actually see layers in a tissue, which in normal x-rays you cannot see. So according to some researchers, they say that bone, there are different layers as well. Well, I haven't seen a terahertz scan, so I can't verify, but that's what the experts tell me, you know. So it is true, and that means that it can identify things very much better than the usual x-rays and all that. And indeed, that's where a lot of research have gone into. So of interest are not only bones, but of interest are cancers, different layers in the cancers, you see. So therapy, a lot of people have been looking at it, and there have been a lot of research in it. In my general talk where I review through the various systems, I have shared with you how people as far away as US and Israel and so forth have been doing it, Japan and so forth. But most of the research seems to be coming from Russia and China. And I suppose it's not surprising that iTerracare comes from China. And of course China is in the forefront of 6G, right? So this is of great interest to us. So here again is stated clearly, terahertz resonate the same frequency as normal human cells. Now, I need to qualify here. The terahertz range is quite a wide range, okay? And because it's a wide range, according to the scientific papers I looked at, that different frequencies will have different effects on human cells, okay? And for the same tissue, a higher frequency may have a different effect. That set me thinking. So this is not just terahertz waves. This device obviously has been tuned in such a way that the band of terahertz waves is narrow, so that it will have that effect on your body tissue. If it's too high, it's no good. Too low, it's no good. Of course, I don't know what's the frequency. It's a trade secret, right? But it's of interest that, you know, terahertz band is wide enough, and the band that can work is a very band that can have that effect. So the features of iTerracare are these. If I don't go through all of them, that's because it's not relevant to my talk today, which I will be focusing on the skin and obesity. Okay? So this thing go off and off. This device penetrates up to 20 to 30 cm, reaching the bone and so forth. It can go in unless it's completely absorbed and blocked. So now this is amazing. Why? Because different frequencies penetrate different depth. And that's why I said that in the iTerracare is a very selective frequency which can penetrate. Penetration depends on frequency and power. So that's why in the terahertz you find a different power, right? From very low energy to high energy. So that's what you will do. So because different tissues will have frequency, vibrations at different frequencies, 8 terahertz is able to distinguish between them. So that's how 8 terahertz waves can distinguish between normal cells, cancer cells, and abnormal cells, infected cells, can distinguish between bacteria, viruses, and so forth. Okay? Activation. The conventional teaching which you have been given of this product is that it can regulate the body temperature, improve the immune system, and activate weak and inactive cells. Okay, as you will find later on when I give my talk, you'll find that the actual situation is much more nuanced. There are a lot of specific responses depending on what kind of cells is being targeted. Yeah, the fact is it's very easy to use, right? And so therefore it's not a medical device, but it has medical applications. So it eliminates unhealthy cells. Among the unhealthy cells are cancers, infections, bacteria, and everything like that. Anything that is foreign. And it can activate inner cells. This is something which terahertz wave is able to do. And it increases self-healing. Now sometimes inner cells are like that because the DNA is not active. The DNA is not active because DNA, as you know, is like a zip, right? Double strand. Okay? So when it's in a double strand form, it's inactive. So in order to make it work, you've got to unzip the DNA. And terahertz has the ability to unzip the DNA and make it active. Isn't it remarkable that this can do that? So I'll focus now on the skin. Okay? Do you know that the skin is an organ? If you don't know, now you know.
Yeah,
The skin is a very complex organ. Okay? It has many important functions. One of the functions is protective. It protects you against injury, from damage, and assault. Assault by what? Any of you? What will assault you through the skin? Viruses, bacteria, anything from outside. Huh? Right? Poisons also. Huh? Reduce harmful effects of radiation. What protects you from the harmful effects of radiation? Anybody? No. Your melanin, the pigment that cause you to be colored. Because some people have more than others. Huh? The dark skin races have more melanin, and they are protected in that way. It's an important sensory organ, right? You can sense, you can feel, and you can touch. It regulates temperature. It can protect you from extreme cold. It can protect you from extreme warmth, right? When you're too warm, you will sweat. When too cold, your fat protects you. It prevents loss of moisture through the sweat glands. Sweat gland also is for temperature regulation. And it's also an immune organ to protect you against infection. So the skin has many functions. And if you look at the structure of the skin now, you understand. Very complex, isn't it? How many layers are there? There's an epidermis right at the external, where these are like very tough, dry cells. Then there's a dermis, and there's a hypodermis. And within it, there are inflammatory cells, the sensory neurons here. Fibroblasts are for repair, collagen, which people who go to beauticians will know what collagen is about. So there are many small organelles within the skin, and it serves the various functions that I show you about. So let's go through some of the disorders. First, the most common things like eczema and acne, right? So this is blockage and inflammation of hair follicles and glands. and you typically find it in teenagers, right? Why? In teenagers, they are growing. A lot of hormones are produced, and they stimulate a lot of cells to multiply. And so, as a result of multiply, all the glands and follicles start to grow. And so, excess of it will cause blockage, and blockage will give rise to acne. And acne, of course, one of the problems of acne is what? It can get infected, right? And that's where you get scarring. So Singapore is such a hot place, and a lot of people sweat. You look around, a lot of people have scarring. Even I myself have some scars due to acne. Right? It's very common. Eczema. Eczema is due to inflammation due to the immune system being overactive. There are a lot of environmental triggers. Oh, by the way, stress can also cause acne to pop out. And those of you who are adults, sometimes you get, when you're stressed, you get a lot of acne popping up. So eczema is similar. It's due to inflammation. It's triggered by stress and a lot of other things. And it also can get infected, and that's part of the problem. Infection. You can get all kinds of infection. You can get parasitic infection. Do you know a parasite that can infect in the skin, which is very common? Do you know any parasite that infects your skin? Any of you know? It's very common. You see it quite often, especially in homes and all that. Scabies. Have you heard of scabies?
Yeah.
It's a parasite. Huh?
So this one cannot go away.
It can go away. You can treat it. In the army, once I get a scabies infection from my patient. I was looking at him, and I think it jumped onto my feet, and I got it on the feet first, and then my wife got it, and we treat ourselves.
With what?
Huh?
With what?
There are several ways of treating it, but you must clean up your entire laundry. So there's fungal infection. Fungal infection is very common in Singapore. A lot of people have it. Those who sweat a lot tend to get the fungal infection. I tend to sweat a lot, and I tend to get recurrent fungal infection. It is a pain in the neck, to say the least. Then other infections are not so common, unless you are susceptible to it. There's a skin infection which you should pay notice. It's called necrotizing fasciitis. It's a flesh-eating bacteria, staph bacteria. Okay, you hear about it in Africa. They use it like this. It eats up your flesh like anything. So how does terahertz waves affect our skin? One is a bactericidal effect. It can kill bacteria. As I said, the terahertz waves can distinguish between foreign cells and your own cells. So it will not only kill bacteria, it will kill fungal infection. I used to use a lot of creams for my fungal infection to get it under control. Now with iTerracare, I use iTerracare more. It keeps it under control. What do you see? It promotes healing with reduced scarring. So this is useful for those of you who are concerned about what will happen. Of course, you can reduce scarring by medical means. That's what plastic surgery is all about. Plastic cosmetic medicine. It downregulates hyperactive immune cells. So the general statement that terahertz wave activate cells are not totally true. It's more correct to say it regulates cells. Because in a lot of conditions, the immune system is hyperactive, and terahertz waves can downregulate, can reduce the activity. It reduces the production of melanin pigments. You have seen in some videos of how people with pigmentation, they get less. I have a pigment here. After blowing, it gets lesser. It used to be much more prominent. So the effect is caused by the production of melanin cells of pigment being reduced. And of course, for cancer cells demethylate. And when this happens, this process of demethylation causes the cancer cells to die. Pretty potent. And one thing, don't use on open wounds. It is stated in the literature, don't use on open wounds. Why? Very simple. It activates a chemical that actually inhibits recovery. That's something that you need to know. Pay attention to this instruction. So the open wound, don't blow on it. Very simple. Okay, I want to talk about autoimmune disorders. Anybody knows what autoimmune disorder? What's the definition? Any of you? The word explains itself. Auto means what? No, self. Not automatic. Immune is the immune cells. That means autoimmune disorders are disorders in which your immune system attack you. Instead of attacking the bacteria, it attack you. Right? So asthma can be considered an autoimmune disorder. It attacks your lungs. Why it developed is a big topic by itself. I can give a complete talk on it. But that's what it does. So the commonest of autoimmune disorders of the skin are lupus. You don't know what's lupus? It's a rash. Systemic lupus erythematosus, or SLE for short. People know it as SLE. And then the scleroderma, the thicken of the skin, the skin become like leather. So some people have that. And a lot of others. But the most common autoimmune disease that probably you know is called psoriasis, where your immune system attacks the skin. And of course, the treatment is to suppress the immune function. Since the immune function is attacking your own cell, the right way to deal with it is to reduce the immune functions as much as you can. And if you do that, you succeed. That's why a lot of steroids are used in SLE and all these immune functions. You see? The happy news is that psoriasis is able to downregulate the immune system in these disorders. And I've seen testimonies of people with psoriasis using the eye-terror care, and it recovered. It's believable because that's what we do. You know, that's what the medical evidence is. Okay? So these are psoriasis. See the thickening like leather like that. See the scabs. See the irregular shape and the pustules, the nodules that become pustules. That means the raised elevation of the skin, and it become sex filled with pus or viscous or whatever. And the other thing is the scab formation. So this is what psoriasis looks like. And in some of the testimonial videos, you see these pictures. Okay? Tumors and SOL. You know what's SOL? Space occupying lesion. Anything that occupies space. So if you have amoebasis of your liver, it's a space occupying lesion. It's not a tumor. It's a space occupying lesion because it's a sac filled with water or liquid. It occupies space, so we call it a space occupying lesion. Now somebody asked me, how is it that as you get older you get more? The problem with all these things is that it gets common with increasing age. As you get older, you tend to get more of this. That's why as you get older, pigment spots begin to appear all over, right? That's one effect of aging. And many people, especially the fairer sex, don't like it because it doesn't look good cosmetically. So there are benign skin lumps and bumps, freckles, moles, they appear, red and brown bumps due to various cells, fibroblasts, all kinds of cells can give rise to all these things. Okay? Moles, of course, and freckles are contributed by melanin, which is a pigmented spots. Then you have your sweat glands which produce sebum, and this sebum can give rise to sebaceous cysts. That means there are cysts in which all your secretions are trapped inside. So it's a space occupying lesion, occupied space. And they can be infected. When they get infected, they're very painful. I assure you. If you have a little bump that's very painful, that probably is an infected sebaceous cyst. Some people get. Then there are malignant lumps. There are many types of skin cancers, and you are not medical, so I don't have to tell you the names of all this, which is too complex for you, but there's one thing you must know. Malignant melanoma. Melanoma is the most malignant of all tumors. You get melanoma, you will die. That's for sure. Just because it's highly malignant and it's in the skin. Contributing factor, exposure to sunlight. Lack of pigmentation. So if you are pigmented, you have melanin cells, you are protected from melanoma. If you are white skin, you don't have melanin pigment and you're exposed to sunlight, you love the brown color of sunburn, you will tend to have melanoma. But that's not to say we don't find it here in Asia. In my career as a student, I've come across a couple of cases of melanoma. It does exist, and it sometimes happens in the face. It's fortunate if it happens in the face because you can notice it. When you can notice it, you can do something about it, right? And it's something related to the line between the ear and your mouth. I think it's below or above the line. So this is very important. So if you see any abnormalities, you can deal with it. Now, the important thing about terahertz waves is that it can inhibit the synthesis of melanin. That's why a lot of people with pigmented spots, I've told you before, they go off as you blow with the thing. Right? Now, this is what necrotizing fasciitis looks like. When the cells of the skin are being eaten up by this bacteria, it looks like a black. And in Africa, they used to have an epidemic of it some time back, if you remember, if you read in the news. And this is how it started. And of course, the whole thing will drop off. Malignant melanoma looks like that. Notice that there is irregular in shape. Notice that the margin is not very clear. Notice it's very irregular. If you see like this anywhere on your body, especially the face, go and get it biopsy. You probably may save your life. And I'm serious because it does happen. It's, although we have some pigment, it doesn't protect us fully. Of course, any cells can be malignant. I have some moles on my legs which I got removed recently. I was assured that it was not malignant.
Is it because you expose your leg to
No. I have some moles. I got it removed because they were irritant because the mole keep falling out. These are benign moles. Yeah, because it keep falling off.
Not because of sun.
No.
It's something else.
So the effect on cancer cells is very dramatic. Terahertz on cancer cells. Because cancer cells and normal cells have a different frequency, terahertz wave is absorbed differently. It can disrupt cancer cell proteins. Terahertz wave is able to disrupt the formation of certain proteins, especially cancer cell DNA. Now this is terribly important. This is one of the most exciting discoveries recently in the last few years or so. And the important thing is a DNA demethylation. Why this is important? Because in cancer, methylation is an essential step that makes cancer proliferate. And terahertz waves is able to demethylate, in other words, is able to break off the bonds between the methyl group and the DNA. And when that happens, the cancer cell cannot multiply anymore. Effectively, the cancer cell is dead. And this has been studied in several cancers. So this is good news. This is one of the most exciting discovery. And of course, you know that recently there was some medication that has miraculous healing properties. People with cancer put on this medication, they completely recover, no sign of cancer cells at all. And this particular medication has this activity. It stimulates your body immune system to attack the cancer cells, and it's very potent. So I'm glad I live at this age where so much advances in medicine and terror waves is there to protect us against all diseases. So now we die. What do we die of now? If we don't have cancer, heart disease, what do we die of?
Old age.
Huh? You don't die of old age without accidents. That's what people die of nowadays. Yeah. So I cannot complete this talk about the skin without talking about the cosmetic effects, right?
Yeah.
At least half the population are interested in that. Huh? So what are the cosmetic effects of eye therapy? Well, that's why we are asked to glow the face, right? And there are reasons for that. And these are the reasons. One is stimulates skin regeneration. That's why with my interest in preventive and regenerative medicine, this is of interest to me. It gives moisture and gloss to skin, shiny, between the dead skin, right? What?
The temperature is too hot directly to the skin.
That's why you are asked to use the lowest setting. No, it's adequate. It's just nice.
I thought this is direct water and chuck. Like a mask.
Different effect. So anyway, so when you give moisture and gloss on the skin looks alive. When I play golf at that time, I was very badly tanned. But it's different from the tan of a dark-skinned person. The dark-skinned person, if you there's a gentleman who is dark-skinned, you can see that his skin has a gloss in it, right? It's alive. But you play golf and the effect of sunburn, it doesn't look like that. It looks dead. And that's the difference between living tissue and sunburn, which is dead tissue. It can eliminate swelling because of its effect on the circulation. In normalized skin cell function, I say normalized because in autoimmune diseases, it downregulates. It reduces the deficit of melanin pigments. So people who are concerned about the various age spots, as they call it, can use it to glow. Of course, there are various creams and moisture lotions and everything you can apply on your face. It's up to you. It stimulates the synthesis of collagen. Now this is again important for its cosmetic effect. You know that collagen is what the plastic surgeon or the beautician inject into your skin as fillers, right? So that's where it is. And tightening of the skin seam, that's the effect. And that's what makes you look young. So not only do you want to feel young, you want to look young. And that's why I consider eye care an anti-aging device. Okay? That is what I consider. Okay, we now talk about obesity. What is obesity? It's a complex disease. Notice I say disease. It's a disease, okay? It involves excessive amount of fat. How do we diagnose obesity? When your BMI is more than 30, overweight is between 25 and 30, underweight is 18.5. My BMI is about 24. So I work very hard to make sure I don't put on weight. Exercise, diet, choice of foods, and so forth. As you get older, your BMI tends to go up. Do you know why? Anybody?
Because body mass.
Metabolism slow.
Metabolism slow down, and you eat more. Right? You can afford to eat better food, quality food. Now, the fact that you eat quality food or the fact that you eat healthy food doesn't mean that you won't get fat. Huh? I've seen a lot of people. Once I was golfing with one of my good friends, and he was a little bit obese. And then after golf, when we eat dinner, he was sharing how he was eating all the healthy foods, and I wonder why he put on weight. It's a very simple, Benny. His name was Benny. It's a quantity. It's a calories. Right? How many people are obese? If you look at the States, wow, terrible. No wonder they're so huge size. Singapore is not so bad. Okay, these two figures are about average for the entire world. I mean, not counting those grossly undernourished third world. This is generally the worldwide trend. 13% obese, 39% overweight. I hope you are not in these two groups. If you are not, then that's very good. You have protected yourself. So now please find something. Oh. So,
Thank you.
yeah, overweight, you are above normal weight, but not in obesity yet. So overweight means that your weight is excessive. You probably have an abdominal protrusion. Okay? You probably have a lot of fat all over. Okay? Obese when you're really obese. A lot of people are overweight, especially in the US. But they are not obese. Only 32%. So Singapore is the same thing. More people are overweight than obese. Yes? No? I thought you put up your hand. Never mind. So the cause of obesity is very simple. Eating too much, moving too little. It's input versus output. If your input is more than output, then you get obese. Very simple. If your output is more than input, then you get reducing weight. And who do you know what disease give you this problem when output is more than input?
Malnutrition.
Not malnutrition. Females usually get it. Anorexia. Anorexic patients tend to be like that. Environmental factors. Lack of activities. Lack of activities and like activity facilities, that means parks, gyms, facilities for exercise, things like that. That's why in a way our government think ahead. At every estate there are exercise parks. There are facilities in the estate that I live in. There's a basketball court, there is a volleyball court, all kinds of exercise facilities. So it encourages you to exercise. And I see people exercising throughout the day, which is amazing. Then of course, the portion size. You go to hawker center, they give you a general size, right? You go to US, you buy any meal, wow, 2 or 3 persons can eat it, can share. But increasingly now, as I get older, I find that I can buy one meal and I can share it with my wife. We eat enough. And I'm not the only one. I've seen a lot. Recently I was at the court opposite this Hong Lim court. One couple just ordered a bowl of chicken laksa. And they were sharing that bowl between them. A lot of couples are doing that because as you get older, you don't eat that much. Same. When I order my meals, the rice I eat is very little. And I wonder, please remove the rice. Because I would throw that away. And sometimes one old lady once saw me putting the rice aside. They look at me and say, you're very wasteful. I said, but that's what I'm given. I said, but it's very wasteful. It is wasteful, I
You
agree.
have to pay another 5%.
But vendors don't believe that you eat so little.
And then I
They feel guilty that they eat so little.
No, then
Once at Market Street Food Center, the vendor said, oh, you eat so little rice, I don't charge you for the rice. I wish everybody was like that. So, there are social and environmental cues. What I mean is that there are signals everywhere for you to eat. In a buffet, for example, wow, the food is so lovely. You want to eat every one of them, right? So these are social cues. Social cues means everybody get to there, everybody eat.
Okay.
So these are all the cues. Genetic causes. Some people have genetic conditions that make them obese. And no, the names let me see whether I can get one. Now we'll come back later on. So there is a hormone that makes us obese, and if you have the gene for that, then that's it. And there's also a tendency for weight gain. Some people have a higher tendency for weight gain than others, and of course metabolic rate is one of them. Then there's health condition and medication. If you take steroids, you tend to put on weight. That's for sure. Anabolic steroids will make you put on weight. Then of course stress, emotional factors, and poor sleep. If you don't sleep enough, if you're stressed or if you're angry, I once saw a client, I think he's still the CEO of his business. They own a lot of hotels. They used to, well, they own a lot of hotels and they own some buildings in Orchard Road as well. When he came to see me, he was as round as a barrel. Literally, it's true. And the reason why he was so obese, he has very bad relationship with his father who runs a business. And he could take orders from his father. And his father scold like, every time the father scold, he get very stressed. And every time very stressed, he will go across. He not just eat a plate of char kway teow. He end up eating more than 10 plates of char kway teow in a day. One plate of char kway teow is 1,400 calories at least in those days. So just multiply. No wonder he was the biggest guy. So I helped him, I helped him with his relationship with his dad and helped him with a lot of things. Eventually he slimmed down. I saw him recently, not recently, probably 4 or 5 years ago, at a function. Wow, he looks slim and handsome.
Wow.
So, stress and emotional factors. You can, of course, when you're very angry, you can eat a lot. There's some people who get very angry and get loss of appetite. Then you got the anger deal that causes you to be anorexic. That's the other extreme. So this can cause obesity. Right? What is the medical risk of obesity? According to WHO, it's a major risk factor of non-communicable diseases. You know what that means? Let that sink in. Major risk factor of non-communicable disease. That means other than infection, obesity is a risk factor for all diseases. All means all. So when this came out about 5-7 years ago, it was very shocking. They produced a white paper, very thick white paper. They review all the evidence, all the illnesses one by one. That was why it was so thick. And it's a review all the evidence. It's very clear that obesity is included in that. Another big cause of obesity is a liquid. You know what that liquid is?
Coca-Cola.
No.
Beer.
Beer belly. Now, a big bottle of Carlsberg or any beer is equivalent to 2 bowls of rice. for your information. So, if you drink that regularly, you're putting on a lot of calories. And of course, beer, alcohol is a cause of a lot of medical problems, which I don't want to go into. So, those who drink beer regularly must know that besides obesity, beer has the effect of destroying your brain cells. Anything more than 2 big bottles of beer a day or equivalent, that means wine, anything, spirits, cause your brain cells to die. I think about 25 years ago, I saw ExxonMobil employee. He was in charge of the Jakarta head office, and he came to see me. He was talking incoherently, so I did all the tests, did an MRI of the brain, and what did I find? The MRI of the brain showed that he has dementia-like effects in the brain. That is, his brain tissue are all thin out. He has lost a lot of brain tissue. The psychological examination shows that he has memory loss, he has inability to concentrate, and a lot of other things due to dementia. That's the effect of alcohol. Well, that's it. So the only thing I can do for him, to help him, is to help him to get him medically boarded out so that he can be medically retired and get his pension for medical reasons. So that's what you can do to you. It's a major risk factor of all non-communicable disease, that is non-infectious. So infection is not caused by obesity. So infection is supposed to protect you from infection. That is, if you're in a very poor primitive society, obesity protects you because you have that buffer, that energy resources available in case you're hit by infection. Let's say you live in Pakistan or Central Asia where things are poor, yeah, that protects you, but not too much. But otherwise, it is a major risk factors in heart disease and stroke. And mind you, this is a major cause of death. Because when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, it's not only heart disease, it's also strokes. Combined together, it is the most important cause of death in Singapore. Diabetes is important because diabetes is not just diabetes alone. It gives rise to complications. Eyesight, kidney. People with diabetes get heart attack without knowing that they have a heart attack. A missionary friend of mine was very angry that he was found to have heart disease and he doesn't know it. So I asked him one simple question: have you got diabetes? He said, yes. They just found out I got diabetes. That's why. If you don't know you have a heart attack, when doctor said you have, 100% I can assure you, you are diabetic. So it is important to control your diabetes. Abdominal fat. Abdominal fat is due to diet or alcohol, which is also diet since it's equivalent to any carbohydrate, right? Abdominal fat has a lot of toxins. The good thing about abdominal fat is that when you ingest poison, it absorbs all the poison, so you don't feel the effect of the poison. The bad thing is that it accumulates there and includes your own body toxins. Your body has toxins and it accumulates in the abdominal fat. And when you try to reduce weight, these toxins get released. That's why some people, when they attempt to reduce weight, they complain of a lot of side effects. It makes them feel worse. Sure, when you reduce, you must make sure you must be on a healthy diet. And what is a healthy diet? Fresh fruits, vegetables, protein, and so forth. Another risk of obesity is osteoarthritis. Why? Lack of exercise, right? So, your bones, your muscles are getting weaker. My wife has osteoarthritis. Every time, most times when I go to the gym, I say, come along. only 10 to 15% of time she came along with me. So although I have arthritis in 1984, so many years later, I still don't have arthritis because I exercise. But because she didn't exercise, she was a school swimmer in the past. Arthritis, she developed arthritis. Now, cancers, all kinds of cancers increase as a result of obesity. It's definitely for sure. So you want to stay away from all these illnesses, all non-communicable diseases? Look at your BMI. And remember, it increases with age. And your risk increases with the BMI. The higher it is, the worse it is. Diet and obesity. Now, often it is said that carbohydrate contribute more to obesity than anything else. That is true, but not totally. So, equivalent amounts of fat, carbohydrate, and protein. Carbohydrate makes you obese much more, followed by fat, least by protein. Protein has negligible effect on weight gain. So you take protein diet, is usually quite safe. Then it was discovered that there are differences in carbohydrate. The simple and complex carbohydrate. I'm sure you heard of the term glycemic index, right? Glycemic index is simple carbohydrate like sugars, chocolates, and all that things have a very high glycemic index. That means it can raise your blood sugar much higher. Whereas complex carbohydrate like starch, vegetable have a low glycemic index. That means it doesn't raise your blood sugar level so much. Okay. How about nuts? Nuts, by the way, are very healthy. I love peanuts. I snack a lot of peanuts. I love it. It protects you. Although gram for gram, peanuts have a high caloric content. How does it protect you? Because it's low glycemic index, right? And because one thing, all nuts have a high fat content. Now, possibly it's a high fat content that protects you. How? High fat content slow your body absorption of food. When it slow your absorption, it absorbs slower. So your blood sugar don't go higher. And it was found that peak blood sugar level is very critically important. In other words, how high your blood sugar goes is more important than anything else, than how much sugar is absorbed. So in the past, we just, diabetic just test the sugar 2 hours after meal and all that. You don't know the exact level. Okay? Nowadays, science is so advanced. There are sensor patches. You wear a sensor patch on your body, and you have an app. You can actually track the blood sugar every few minutes or so. You can actually check it up and down. So you can see the highest it can go. See? The higher it goes, the worse it is for you. Of course, this spectrum you only wear for about 2 weeks and then you got to change the pack. But otherwise, it's a very useful device to track your blood sugar level. In fact, at one time in anti-aging medicine, there were people who were taking this tolbutamide. Tolbutamide is an anti-diabetic medication. And the theory was that if you take tolbutamide, it will reduce your blood sugar level, the peak blood sugar level. That means your sugar level won't go up to that very high and give a health risk to you. Important, isn't it? Then there's another thing. Recently, I attended a medical conference, local medical conference. Very good. They were bringing the latest technology into medicine, and this is like better than a lot of Western medicine, because why, we have a lot of professors recruited from the West, and they are now staff in our various universities, and we have now 3 medical schools now, and no wonder it's so advanced. called gut microbiome. Do you know that in your intestine there are plenty of living organisms?
Yes.
Guess how many species are living in your gut?
Millions. Millions.
14 trillion. You have bacteria, you have viruses, you have parasites, you have fungus, all kinds. The more diverse your gut microbiome is, the more healthier you are. If you heard of fecal transplant, where they take normal feces and put inside your colon, it's meant to restore your gut microbiome. How did your gut microbiome got depleted? If you eat processed food, take too much antibiotics, you kill the thing inside you. Why is this so important? It contributes to many diseases, including colon cancer, including brain disorders, autism I can think of, and a lot of others. Sometimes when you find something that you don't quite understand, you test a gut microbiome, oh, something is deficient. So how do you nurture gut microbiome diversity? Anybody knows? Eat fresh food. Eat a lot of fresh vegetables, fibers, mixed diet. You nurture the ecosystem inside your gut, and that contributes to your health. It's fantastic. That's why there's a lot to say for a healthy, normal, fresh food diet rather than TV meals. TV meals like pizza and fast food, no, they don't contribute. That's the last thing. Not that I don't take McDonald's, but probably once in a month or 2 months or 3 months like that. Once in a month, wow, enjoy yourself. Right? So, microbiome is very important. Probiotics, prebiotics, symbiotics. What are these? What is probiotic? No, probiotics are bacteria. Prebiotics are the nutrients that nourish this bacteria. Symbiotics are supplements that give you probiotics and prebiotics. So remember, some people take capsules that are supposed to give you so many thousands of bacteria. Those are symbiotics. Right? But taking probiotics is not enough. You need prebiotics. You need the healthy diet to nurture those bacteria.
How about omega-3? Is it good?
Omega-3 is a fatty acid that is good for your brain and other conducting tissues. Okay? We're talking about gut bacteria.
Yes.
Okay? So, in obesity, what does it do? Any of you gone for saunas?
Yes.
Why?
Sweat out.
Sweat out. And what does happen when you sweat out? Detox.
Fat burning.
Yeah, fat burning. One of the effects of
Burning.
infrared is that you burn off the fat cells. And that's what terahertz wave does for you.
Yeah, it's good.
Low light therapy, which is sauna is about. Get rid of stubborn fat. And remember, high terahertz wave is a far infrared radiation. It's also an infrared wave. That's why it has an effect. It's an effective and safe treatment for fat reduction. Accelerate the fat burning process. You see? Reduce the formation of fat within fat cells. You retard that process and reduce the formation of cellulite. Now, oftentimes you see videos of people with skin that are discolored and they call it water retention. You know, water retention is caused by what problems? It's not there. What? Heart failure
Yeah.
or kidney dysfunction. That means your kidney is not pumping out water. That's why they measure. If you have heart failure, they measure the amount of water or urine you pass out. If it's much less than normal, your kidney is not functioning. Of course, to a certain extent, if your kidneys are still alive, they can give medication to force the kidney to pump out, and then you produce urine, and that's good.
But my mom having a bad thyroid.
Yeah,
My mom had been having a bad thyroid, very bad.
Thyroid.
Yeah, thyroid, and that caused the heartbeat not stable, too
Yeah.
fast, too low, and it produce water and become anemia and water
yes,
retention.
possible. Indeed, thyroid can give rise to that problem. But essentially, that is the primary cause heart failure and other things which give rise to the water retention. What I'm trying to say is that heart failure is the immediate cause
Oh.
of water retention. Okay? So usually you see in the dependent areas, the lower limbs. Huh? Now, when there's water retention, imagine there's a lot of water in the surrounding tissue. Your veins, your capillaries are all constricted, right? When they constricted, the water is not flowing. There's an accumulation of waste products. There's an accumulation of toxins. That's why you see the discoloration. You understand? Thank you. So the discoloration is not due to the water retention, but it's due to the waste product and all the kind of things that mess up that you see there. And of course, if the circulation is blocked over time, the water retention can cause cellular death. The cells will die. And that's one of the problems of diabetes. That's why the legs get amputated. You see? You need to understand this. Because people don't understand, so never mind, don't see doctor lah, can't walk lah, just rest lah. Ay, susah lah. Asking for trouble lah. I have a friend whose mother, both legs amputated. Pitiful. If you have taken care from the very beginning, diabetes can be controlled. Now with all this, glucose receptors that stuck to your skin, and then you can check the blood sugar level, you should be able to control it. Bring it within reasonable level. Don't have the complications. It's the complications of diabetes that kills you more than anything else. So, and this is what happens: oxygen deprivation and cell death. So terawatt waves improve your circulation, but the underlying condition must be treated. If you don't deal with the underlying condition, it's asking for trouble. Just a leaking pail. You just keep on pouring water, you don't repair the leak, you'll never get the water up. So this is improve microcirculation, this is what it does. That's the effect of terawatt waves. So, you see in all the videos on my thyroid care, I have this problem and it got healed. I got this problem and it got healed. Wonderful, beautiful. I love those stories. I'm sure you love them too. But if you know the effect of thyroid wave, you would know that prevention is possible, right?
Of course.
And I start this talk by telling you I have an interest in preventive health since 1989. Prevention includes oral supplement, lifestyle change, and self-care. You got to look after yourself. You got to change your lifestyle. Right? Somebody commented that people in their 70s like me don't look like me. They look haggard, they look withdrawn, on wheelchair, or carrying a walking stick, or walk slowly. I run.
Good.
I still do a jog. But now because of my age, I do what they call a jog walk.
Brisk walking.
Walk fast. Okay.
Jog walk. Why a jog walk? Because when you jog, the effect on your knees are quite great. Right? A brisk walk is good.
Yeah.
Is adequate. But a jog has certain benefits that a walk don't give you. And if you want to know the benefit, you come to my, let's say, general health talk, they'll tell you, all the many benefits of exercise,
Yes.
of jogging, where you exercise your cardiovascular effort. There are many hormonal and benefits and a lot of things on your blood pressure, everything. So that's why my classmate, we have a chat group, and those who are very healthy, they share. A jog walk is the best. I used to jog for the whole of 30 minutes. Now I jog walk. Every 10 minutes I jog, then 10 minutes followed by 10 minutes of walk, then followed by 10 minutes of jog. Altogether about 35-40 minutes.
It depends on your health and your age also. If
I
you're
can.
too old, you jog, it's very dangerous. Sometimes you can die.
No, I've been jogging since I was 40.
You're still okay. No, it
I'm
still looks
73.
good. Oh, you're still young.
Father,
And for me, what do you think? How old I am?
is
I don't know. 70, 80?
84.
Good. Keep it
Very
up.
healthy.
Keep
See my
it up. Keep it
face?
up.
All this. You see a hair like that? You want a hair to grow? Very easy. See? All this. The blood circulation. And that's what I'm doing every morning. For my face.
Terahertz waves.
Huh?
Okay.
All this thing. All this very good. Blood circulation. No, I'm just giving some.
Yeah.
I do my
Later,
exercise
later,
every
later,
morning. Yeah.
later.
Keep fit.
Terahertz waves
Sorry,
can
yeah.
help your hair to grow.
Yeah. It's in
Can
my
help your hair
hair.
to grow. Okay? And the important thing is you keep active. The more active you
Active,
are,
right.
the more you retain the bodily function. Prevention requires effort,
Yes. Correct.
but it's cost effective.
Very important.
Therapeutic effect is very dramatic. You got heart disease, you blow it, you don't have, you do a video, wow, everybody clap.
Yeah.
You have this, you blow, wow, it's dramatic effect. And the motivation is highest. You're gonna die, you're gonna have this complication, you're gonna amputate, you're gonna blow this. Motivation is very high. But motivation for preventive care, not very high. Exercise,
no time.
not in the mood.
Ah,
Tomorrow I do it.
yeah.
Tomorrow never come.
Yeah, that's no good.
Always do things today. But let me tell
We did a
you,
practice, yeah.
an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly. Yeah.
To have a stent in your body and the medical fees to go along with it, easily 10,000 or more. Now I believe it's 15,000 now. I have 7 stents.
Yeah. Good.
Good.
7 wonders, huh?
So right.
By right, I should be dead at 53. And that's reason because of exercise since 40. And if you exercise,
It helps you.
whatever stroke or heart attack you have will be mild.
Yeah. Won't
So
be the
because
serious.
of exercise since 40, at 53 when I got my first heart attack. Incidentally, my father had his first heart attack at 53 also.
Oh,
Strong family history.
oh, okay.
My brother died of a stroke.
Oh.
So this definitely family history.
It's bad, yeah.
So when I have the blood vessel, later on my cardiologist told me that your heart attack was in the inferior cardiac artery, inferior coronary artery. Now that artery is a big fat artery underneath your heart. And that is a very huge artery that if I were to have a heart attack, I could just collapse and die. That was like that. The cardiologist who attended to me at that time, it was about 5:30 after office hours, it's not 6:20. He personally wheeled me to A&E to get admitted. And on the way there, he asked me some questions. Said, "No, cannot. We got to do it today." And by 6 o'clock, he got another cardiologist to do the stents. That's how I survived and got to be alive to talk to you.
Good.
It was very dramatic. But the reason why I tell this story is that because of my healthy lifestyle, I have lived more than 20 over years.
Exactly.
And my last angiogram was perfectly normal. There was no blockage at all in my coronary arteries, which means I should be able to survive the next 5 to 10 years with no problems. So after the next few years, I will go for another coronary angiogram. Keep myself fit, keep myself healthy. It requires a lot of effort. It requires me to take note of what day it is, when I must go for my exercise. And if I can't go because of a wedding or something like that, then the next day I will make up for it. It requires a lot of effort. I have sold a number of these eye care devices. Some of the people I sold it to, when I call down to how they are doing, oh, I don't have the time to use it. Fine. I can tell you, I can't tell you to use it lah. But the thing is, because it requires effort, if you don't use it, then it will have no effect on you.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's just like buying supplements and not taking it.
yeah, exactly. That's too good.
Some people find supplement expensive. This thing is a one-off payment of a few $100s, and can you use it for at least 1 year, if not 2 years?
Yes.
It takes effort, it takes time, it takes at least 30 minutes depending on your needs.
Yeah.
Or if your needs is much more than that, you need 45 minutes or even an hour.
Yeah.
And if you have a stroke like my brother, he blow about 2.5 hours every day.
Oh.
But because he's so bad in his health and he wants to recover, he got to do that. But don't wait until like my brother have a stroke and then blow 2.5 hours. Be like me, blow half an hour every day.
Yeah, it's good enough.
So I want to preach to you prevention.
Yes. That's very
And I
important.
want to sell this thing as a preventive device to keep you healthy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm offering you. So it can be used for all these things. This is something that it can be used for. You've seen this. You can contact me here. I have a device which can detect ill health. It's a bioresonance scan. And as a scan, you can see the function of your heart. How is it functioning? And it tells you where to scan. So some of the people I've scanned have discovered that their hip is not that well, or a part of their body is not that well, a particular organ is not that well. And with the result of the scan, I've done my brain scan perfectly normal, except there are small spots of hemorrhages. These are caused by the stents that I have put in my heart. When you put in the stent, you disturb the clot, and small bits get spread upwards all over your body, and in the brain you can see small spots of hemorrhage and thrombosis. So this was seen in my brain scan, but apart from that, it was perfectly normal.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't have any brain tumors. So scans like this help you to understand where your body is. So if you want a scan, you can contact me for this. This thing won't move. Never mind. But you can contact me for this. I have my email address. I don't. I think you can contact me at my handphone number.
Thank you. Keep healthy, huh?
So, any questions? You can ask me any questions. Yes.
You can use it. I mean, how do you use it on the heart? Then you can blow like that, is it? On the heart area. Right?
You can blow the heart area.
What about for the eye?
You can
close the eye and go
blow,
like that.
close your eyes, use the lowest setting.
Cannot open your eye, right?
You can. There are people who open their eyes.
Oh, okay.
But I don't like the effect.
Oh, it's okay to open the eye. You will not damage the eye after the
Yeah. As I said, I don't like the effect.
Because I've got what do you call it, floaters, big floaters in my eye. So can it actually help in the hearing?
Just at least right? If for